Welcome.
This building is Dubois Center. My name is Diana and I'll be your tour guide for today. So this whole building was the home of Dr. Dubois. He lived here for 2 years, from 1961 to 1963. The house was gifted to him by the first president of Ghana, Dr. Kwame Nkrumah. So Dubois came here on Dr. Kwame Nkrumah's request to come and finish some documents we call the Encyclopedia Africana, Dictionary of African Biography. So Dr. Kwame Nkrumah wanted to put all of Africa's history in some documents so the future generations can learn more about it. And since he and Dr. Dubois were very like-minded, Dr. Dubois was also a prolific writer and an editor. So he passed the project on to him to be the chief editor. So because of that, Dubois came in 1961 to settle here permanently till he finished the encyclopedias. He came here at the age of 93 years. He did not come alone, he came with his second wife, Mrs. Shirley Dubois. Dr. Dubois was born on the 23rd of February 1868 in Great Barrington, Massachusetts in the USA. Dubois was born to a French father, Alfred Dubois, and a Dutch West African mother, Mary Samantha Bregat. When he was 2 years old, his French father left and never came back, so he was single-handedly raised by his mother. His mother passed on during the latter part of his high school years. Dr. Dubois attended the Great Barrington High School, where he was the only black boy in his class. After Great Barrington, his main dream was to go to Harvard University. But before going to Harvard, he first went to Fisk University as a stepping stone. After Fisk, he entered Harvard, where he became the first black man to graduate with a PhD in the year 1896. After Harvard, he went to Berlin University, but he did not finish his stay at Berlin. Since he couldn't pay all of his tuition fees, he did a few semesters and left Berlin University. It's also said that Dr. Dubois attended a few other universities in his lifetime. In his earlier days, he married his first wife, Mrs. Nina Goma. They were married for 54 years. They had 2 children, a son and a daughter. Their firstborn child, the son, died 18 months after birth. He was sick and was denied medical health care, so he died as a result of the disease. Later on, they had a daughter, Nina. Nina grew to the age of 60 years before passing away from a heart attack. His first wife, Mrs. Nina Goma Dubois, died from stroke and depression in 1950. So in 1951, Dr. Dubois married his second wife, that's Mrs. Shirley Dubois. So Mrs. Shirley accompanied Dr. Dubois throughout the rest of his life and to Ghana. Dubois in his lifetime was known as a writer, an editor, a Pan-Africanist, civil rights activist, socialist, sociologist, historian, and a strong believer in the freedoms of black people everywhere. He died right here in this bedroom in a sleep of natural causes on the 27th of August 1963. He died at the age of 95 years. Even though Dr. Dubois did not start the Pan-Africanist movement, he's known as a modern-day father of Pan-Africanism because he carried most of those values with him throughout his lifetime. So in this room, we have a few artifacts belonging to Dr. Dubois. So we start from here and go around the other artifacts. So in here, we have 3 books in red. These books are the only copies of the Encyclopedia Africana, Dictionary of African Biography. Dr. Dubois was supposed to be 10 to 20 volumes, which were to cover all 54 African countries. But sadly, he could not. During his 2 years stay here, he could only do 3. In these 3 volumes, we have 8 African countries. So volume 1 talks about Ethiopia and Ghana. Volume 2 talks about Sierra Leone and Zaire, which is today's Congo. Volume 3 talks about Botswana, Lesotho, South Africa, and Swaziland, which is Eswatini. He did not totally finish these 3, but after his death, 2 scholars from Harvard finished on his behalf. They are Henry Louis Gates Jr. and Kwame Anthony Appiah. After they were done, the encyclopedia project was left in the honor of Dr. Dubois. In here, we have Dr. Dubois' academic gowns. The gowns in black here was what he wore during his graduation in Harvard in the year 1896. The first black man to earn his PhD. The other gown in red here was gifted to him by the University of Ghana. A few months prior to his death, he was given the title Doctor of Letters, and he wore that gown on that day. And behind are quotes from other universities he attended as well.
Wow.
In this room, we have 3 gifts belonging to Dr. Dubois. In 1959, Dr. Dubois visited China to celebrate his 91st birthday. A few series of events pushed him to leave China. So even though he was a staunch socialist, the US government condemned him as a communist. So for 6 years, his passport was seized. As soon as it was given to him in 1959, he went to visit communist China. Over there, Chinese people gave him 4 gifts as it was Dr. Dubois' birthday. Today we have only 3 of those gifts in existence. So the automotive gift is that Dr. Dubois' birthday, the 23rd of February, was celebrated as a public holiday in China until it was later annulled. The next gift is over here. These scrolls, the Chinese people viewed Dr. Dubois as a very wise man. So before he left China, they made these scrolls for him to remember the wisdom he laid back. The contents of the scroll are a sort of praise song to Dr. Dubois. So it translates to a credit to colored races. You are a shining example, meaning universal admiration, committed to world peace. You are riding the east wind, enjoying happy longevity. To Dr. W.E.B. Dubois on his 91st birthday. The next gift is in here. This walking stick. The walking stick was used by Dr. Dubois till the time of his death in 1963. On his visit to China, he was 91 years old, and the Chinese noticed he needed aid to walk, so they made this walking stick to be his aid throughout the rest of his life. It was crafted by the Chinese people themselves and given on to him. The last gift is this embroidery. The embroidery is a depiction of how the Chinese people saw and viewed Dr. Dubois. So in there you have a man, a gray beard, some scrolls, a walking stick, a deer, and some seeds by his side. The beard represents old age, the scrolls wisdom, the walking stick leadership, the deer peace, and the seeds charity. An old wise leader directing his people peacefully, giving all he had. Even though Dubois might not have distributed money to the world, his travel for black people everywhere was the richest he gave out before he passed away. Let's not forget, Dubois formed the NWACP, the National Association for the Advancement of Colored People, so he could struggle for the rights and freedoms of black people everywhere. In 1905, he had already formed the Niagara movement, but just like the Niagara movement, he didn't stay long in the NWACP. He left to also pursue other ideas as well. So his ideas concerning black people is moving worldwide today. In here, we have pictures of Dr. Dubois' early family life. Picture A, which you can see well now, is a picture of his French father, Alfred Dubois. B is a picture of baby Dubois. The female cradling him is his mother, Mary Sylvana Bregat, and Dr. Dubois' cousin. Picture C was taken when Dr. Dubois was 4 years old. D is from his time in the Great Barrington High School. He's the black boy at the corner here, and those are his mates and teacher. And that's Dr. Dubois, his first wife, Mrs. Nina Kema, and his son who died at 18 months. In here, we have photocopies of Dr. Dubois' original diaries. He spoke 6 languages during his lifetime. He taught Greek and Latin, spoke French, Dutch, Chinese, and English. And these diaries come in Dubois' handwriting in a few languages he spoke during his lifetime as well. On the walls here, we have a few more pictures of Dr. Dubois before his stay in Ghana and during his stay in Ghana. So this picture was the last birthday he celebrated before he passed away, his 95th birthday. So we have Dr. Dubois, his second wife, Mrs. Shirley, the first president of Ghana. He was a very good friend of Dr. Dubois, and the first president's wife, Mrs. Fatia Nkrumah. At the top here is a picture of Dr. Dubois in the academic gown pasted to him at the University of Ghana. And over here we have a picture of Mrs. Shirley, Dr. Kwame Nkrumah, and Stokely Carmichael. So this picture was taken in Guinea during the exile of the first president after the 1966 military coup d'etat. And at the floor here, we have a combination of some pictures from his trip to China in 1959. So straight up ahead was Dr. Dubois' working closet. You can go in and have a look. And at the other room, we have his washroom.
Okay, not there. Not there. Oh, okay.
So this was Dr. Dubois' washroom. And in there you have a Samsung bathtub. The towels are all original, and the washroom has been maintained to how we always used it.
This is really good.
Do you have any questions before we move on to the next one?
No, message.
Then we'll visit the office of the second. This picture is a picture of Dr. Dubois' daughter, Nina. Yes. This room was the office of Dr. Dubois' second wife, Mrs. Shirley Brown. They got married in 1951 Dubois, a year after the death of his first wife. Mrs. Shirley was 54 years when she got married to Dr. Dubois, and he was 83 years old. They had no children together, but Mrs. Shirley had 2 sons from her previous marriage. So when she got married to Dr. Dubois, he adopted one of those boys, who was called David, and named him David William Dubois. So David was the only son of Shirley and Mrs. Shirley. Throughout her lifetime, she was a feminist, civil rights activist, a teacher, and a writer. So Mrs. Shirley was an active member of the NWAC, and she continued to struggle for the freedoms of Black people and the freedoms of women everywhere. During her time in college, she wrote a play which was acted by an all-black cast. Very few of its and impacted in a highly racial society. She was the advisor to Dr. Kwame Nkrumah and also the first director of Ghana Broadcasting Corporation. Mrs. Shirley lived in Ghana till 1966 after the death of Dr. Dubois, but due to Ghana's first military coup d'etat, she had to flee. She was kept in this house under arrest for 3 to 4 months since she refused to give information concerning Dr. Kwame Nkrumah. So due to those circumstances, she felt she was in safe and left Ghana. She visited Guinea where the president was in exile and the two people China version together. She went to a few other African countries. She visited Tanzania as well and decided to go back to China. On her journey, they noticed she suffered from breast cancer. So her main reason for going to China was for treatment. But Mrs. Dubois nominated. She passed away in Beijing in 1977 with breast cancer. And before she died, she left a message that she wanted her remains to be put next to Dr. Dubois. So her remains were cremated by the Chinese as per their beliefs, and her ashes were brought back to Ghana. So at the gravesite, we have the ashes of Mrs. Shirley and the remains of Dr. Dubois. Visit the gravesite last before you leave. So this room being an office is dedicated to some female freedom fighters all across the African space. So most of the pictures which were here have been taken as they will go back later. But we've maintained a few. At the center are 2 pictures of Mrs. Shirley. So the pictures on the walls behind you are from their trip to China in 1959. The wooden cases here belonged to Dr. Dubois. So he brought so many books with him on his journey to Ghana. These books were packed into these cases and shipped here by sea. We come across his books when we visit his library. And the books here were given to him as gifts to the family. This one is from Harvard University. And the one in front here was given to them by the Czechoslovakian government during one of their visits. These colors are the colors of the Pan-African flag designed by Marcus Garvey. And it tells a bit of African history. The red symbolizes the blood shed by our forefathers in the struggle for freedom. The black represents we the African people, and the green are resources in our vegetation. We find these colors in most flags of African countries. It's just an addition of African history to the history of the country. Do you have any questions?
Thank you so much.
We'll go to Dr. Dubois. During his stay here, this room served as the library and personal office of Dr. Dubois. So he sat on this chair during his stay here. I don't know which table he used. He wrote till the time he passed away. In this room, we have 1,500 books. And most of these books were brought by Dr. Dubois on his journey to Ghana. So these are books stemming from the early 1800s to the late 1900s. It is said that these books were aiding Dr. Dubois in his aim into writing down African history. We have books on the Bantu, Greek philosophy, German English dictionary, and many more. Most of these books are no longer being published, and they are very old and outdated, so they are kept here and the lock and key. But sometimes you have researchers who would like to use Dr. Dubois' books, so they get a special permission slip from the director, and they are allowed to use some of these books carefully. In here, we have some samples for copies of books written by Dr. Dubois and Mrs. Shirley. So at the lower shelf here are some books written by Mrs. Shirley, the second wife of Dr. Dubois. And from the first shelf to the fifth shelf are some books written by Dr. Dubois. The books in red here are multiple copies of imported books. So these ones were given out to his guests when they came to see him during his stay. So we have some of his books like Souls of Black Folk, which he wrote after the death of his son, the Philadelphia Negro, one of his research works, Black Construction, Blackwater, We have John Brown and a few other of his books. In his lifetime, he published 1,975 books before he passed away. Dr. Dubois was also a poet as well, so we have some of his poems, his poems of mine. So if you want to read a few, I think you should just browse through the internet, and in most of his poems you understand a bit more of his experience concerning Africa, concerning the diaspora. So I would like you to read Ghana Poems. It's one of the poems he wrote to Dr. Kwame Nkrumah. You find it on Google. And in that poem he described his experience about how he was treated in the diaspora, how people could not tell if he was male or female, and how he suffered from racism and a few other prejudices. But when he came to Africa, he knew he was black. He looked like everyone else, and no one had to ask if he was male or female before identifying him. So if you read more of that book, you get a few of his experiences. And we have these books in the library, the museum market. Mostly the children can't read the big books at the public library, but we have these ones to teach them a bit about Black history and other figures connected to Black history. And we have a few of Dr. Dubois' books for sale at the museum market. So if in case you want to buy any of these workbooks for children back at home, you can feel free to do so after the talk. So over here, we have the word clock. So this clock is a connection to Dr. Dubois. It holds the dreams and visions of Dr. Dubois. So in here, we have a big web going through the center. Now if you look at the name of Dr. Dubois, his initials are W.E.B. Dubois. You have W.E.B. Dubois. The web here in our culture represents unity and togetherness. And we say it's woven by Kweikwanansi the spider. Kweikwanansi is a small archetype you would find in most of our local folk tales and folklores. He's very small, he's devoid of physical strength. Kweikwanansi is very intelligent. He uses intelligence to his satisfaction. We say Dr. Dubois is also as intelligent as Kweikwanansi. So for the spider to weave this complete web, you'd first have to weave the single individual strands in there. At the end of the whole weaving process, you see the spider has woven this full web. And it was the same thing Dubois did. Even though he was born in the US, he did not let them stop him from coming here to write down Africa's history. He did not let the concept of being born on the merger of black and white stop him from finding freedom for the African people. He did not look down on any other race. Dubois looked for unity for everyone throughout his life. And wherever he took his idea and his visions, someone also picked up and learned something. So every country Dubois stepped in, be it Ghana, the US, the Soviet Union, Berlin or China, he always carried his notions of the freedoms of black people, our continuity and our unity into the next world. And those visions were the single individual strands of the web he wove. At the end of Dr. Dubois' whole life, he had woven this complete web of unity. So this over here signifies the visions, the achievements, the aspirations of Dr. Dubois during and after his life. So this is why you have this over here. So we'll move on to the other parts of the house. Thank you very much. history of selflessness. So, here I'll show you Dr. Dubois' family tree. She died at 60 years old. Ina also graduated from Fix University just like Dr. Dubois. She died a few months prior to Dr. Dubois' journey to Ghana. In here are some teacups which were used by the family during this time. So the room here surrounds Dr. Dubois' kitchen. It has now been changed into a public library. We have 2,500 projects and various topics and categories. So we have this collection. In here is the seminar hall. Dr. Dubois' living room area, or you can leave the door open, it's fine. Dr. Dubois' living room area was too small to contain all of his guests. So later this room was built and attached to the living room area. So this was where he had most of his meetings and addressed issues. For now, this room is used to remember the memories of Pan-Africanists and other civil rights activists who have fought valiantly to aid the African